Good morning. It is the 28th of May and 2016, and I have a few things to go over that I want to talk about here today. And I don't even know where to start on this. There's a lot of interesting things which actually all come together, all meet together. Now, one of them is this plan to create New Zealand's biggest media company by merging NZME, which is what is it called? Media and Entertainment, New Zealand Media and Entertainment Company, and which is owned by APN, Associated Press, and Fairfax. Now, is that there? Okay, missed that. Okay, so let's keep to this for a moment. Alright, so they say their reasons for the merger was, which is a kind of a joke, but it says quality journalistic content that consumers choose to engage with is the only competitive edge available in a digital world where anyone can create and upload content. So the two media companies in their joint case to the Commerce Commission for the merger to proceed. Okay, so there is another interesting bit to that, which is where? So they say in this article here, which is ME Fairfax Media Merger Plan, what you need to know. They say the change was in response to transforming media landscape. They said the change had been particularly felt in New Zealand, where internet penetration and smartphone ownership rates are among the highest in the world. In other words, we're hurting them. And so they are trying to merge to basically wipe out, create one gigantic propaganda machine that will be the news. Okay. Secondly, we have, and everyone in New Zealand will have heard this all about the homeless recently. That the government's dealing with it, the government's not dealing with it, that what they're going to do, what they're not doing, and so on. Right? You hear all about this. Okay. And that's kind of an interesting subject. And I was wondering about this last night, and I was thinking, for the media to be pushing homeless, and they're talking it up, and they're getting people stirred up about it, and you got to think there's always some reason why they push these things, and the answer to that comes a little bit in this article here, which just turned up in my lap last night. Housing measures still on the menu, and this was from 27th yesterday, 3 p.m. yesterday. Okay. The budget didn't dish up much on the housing front, but it sounds like the main course is coming. Prime Minister John Key and other senior cabinet ministers have gone on the offensive following Thursday's budget announcement, taking up the upcoming unveiling of the National Policy Statement on Urban Development. Let me make this crystal clear, because this is what the National Policy Statement will do over the next few years. It will ensure that councils must make available sufficient land to accommodate growth in the community, Prime Minister John Key told Parliament on Thursday. It's no longer a matter of choice or debate for those councils. Land will be zoned residential and developed in quantities sufficient to meet demand, period. Okay, so there is why they have been talking up homeless, because they want to change New Zealand's zoning laws, and actually they're going to do it by force. So even if the councils don't like it, we have this. He says we will work together. Right? Mr. Key said it wasn't a case of the government versus the council. We work together, he said. The government has already warned that if the council fails to deliver sufficient measures in its soon-to-be-released unitary plan to free up more land and allow for higher density housing, it could step in to do it itself, meaning the government. So it's not a we work together, it's a you will do this. There is no choice. So that is what they are planning, and then we go to paint this whole picture and actually, here's another one. Inhumane Auckland City businesses drenching homeless with water. And this comes from July 2006. Sorry, July 16th, and I think this is last year, 2015. So this is how long they've been talking about on the media. Same thing happening in the States, more than 500,000 people homeless, and that was last year. Okay, now we'll get back to those ones. Okay, let's go to the UN website, United Nations website, and this is interesting facts and figures. Half of humanity, 3.5 billion people, live in cities today. By 2030, almost 60% of the world's population will live in urban areas. This is apparently a fact. Well, it could be a figure, I guess. Go figure. 828 million people live in slums today, and the number keeps rising. So on, so on. Rapid urbanisation is exerting pressure on fresh water supplies, sewage, the living environment and public health. But the high density of cities can bring efficiency gains and technological innovation while reducing resource and energy consumption. So, the targets. By 2030, ensure access for all to adequate, safe and affordable housing and basic services and upgrades slums. Right. When you read these, you've got to actually read through the lines, and the point is that what we're talking about with this housing crisis so-called, is that it is very much in the purpose is very much in agreement with this United Nations goals. Here it says by 2030 significantly reduce the number of deaths and the number of people affected, and substantially decrease the direct economic losses relative to blah 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 blah. Okay, well, one of the ways you can reduce the number of people affected is by reducing the number of people. Yes, it creates a few deaths, but we won't look at that. They won't be. While they drop chemtrails on us and vaccinate us and allow all the chemicals that are going into our food and the supermarkets. Okay, so you get the idea. Now, United Nations are definitely moving in very fast, and it looks like they're trying to speed that up. We have Safer Communities network right through New Zealand now. The number of areas in New Zealand that have signed up for it are just phenomenal. Right, all of these ones, just about all the country actually. There's the whole list. Okay, so we've got Safer Communities. We've got. I'll get back to that one. Okay. This is a good website, this one here, wakeupkiwi.com. You can check this out. There's heaps of stuff on here about the globalist agenda, right? I'm not going to cover it right now, but it's definitely something you should check out. Now, let me see what else there is. Oh, yeah, okay. In the last couple of weeks, it was announced that there's going to be like $11 billion spent on New Zealand military. It's an interesting figure. So they're stepping up the military thing, very much in line with the US heavy spending on military and very little spending on the people. Okay, we've got the media merging, so there will be just like one mouthpiece for the government, or for the corporate government, should I say. I was just watching this video about chemtrails being even spoken about on mainstream media in the States. So that's the poisoning aspect that we're talking about. And not just in the States, but also in England, there have been people who actually die from Morgellons and other diseases caused by chemtrails. So, you get the picture. Let's just have a look at this. Oh, the other thing is, I was going to show this again, because I actually think this is pretty interesting. Okay. Oh yeah, I was looking at who owns the media and so on, and we have well, you can do a whole search on that. It's interesting, but New Zealand is being called a tax haven. This came out recently, and one website offering to set up New Zealand trusts extols our reputation as the Switzerland of the South Pacific as one of the major benefits. And it's true. That is what they're actually planning, as a home for the global elite. And this is why at Christmas time the Royal Caribbean are bringing down the third largest cruise ship in the world, and over the next 10 years within the world's biggest cruise ships will be sailing New Zealand waters within 10 years, as long as the infrastructure in New Zealand is in place to cope. So they're bringing this one down at Christmas time, and they are intending more. So that is basically what I was bringing you to. It's a very different picture for New Zealand, but nevertheless, that is what's happening, and that is why they are talking up the homeless thing. Yes, it's true, but there is a purpose behind this whole creation, to move in Agenda 2030 to push people into cities, to basically move in the whole of Agenda 2030. Okay, this is Nigel checking out.